And age doesn't matter. How much knowledge they have doesn't matter. I mean, I have people who've listened to me for years, and I've worked with many of their relatives, and they still come to me saying, hey, I want to have a will drawn up. And my quick response to them is, a will is a type of estate planning document, but it may not be the best type of estate planning document for you. So broadly speaking, a well-drafted will is always going to do two things, and when applicable, it's going to do a third. First thing the well-drafted will does is determine who your beneficiaries are. Okay, who or what, in the event of charities, are going to receive the proceeds of your estate after you and your spouse, if you're married, pass away. Second thing the well-drafted will is going to determine who's in charge. People have heard the term executor before. You get to appoint that executor. The third thing that the well-drafted will does, when applicable, is it allows you to determine guardianship of minor children. Okay, and I emphasize that because I know you have minor children. I have minor children. Perhaps some people listening have minor children. I will state this. I'm going to go a little off topic, but state this unequivocally. The only way to determine guardianship of minor children under Wisconsin law is if you have that determination for guardianship made in either a will or a trust. Literally nothing else is enforceable. I have so many people that I run into who have minor children. Obviously, having minor children myself, most of their friends have parents who talk about this and are aware of this, and they just simply don't know that. They think that if I have a notarized letter that that's good enough, or I have a video document that says I want my children to go to my sibling, whatever the case is. I will tell you they're completely unenforceable. The only way to get it enforced is to have a will or a trust in place. So again, anyone who has children under the age of 18 really should have that estate plan in place to, at a bare minimum, determine guardianship of the minor children. But again, to circle back to the will versus trust discussion, well-drafted will allows you to determine who your beneficiaries are, who's in charge, and who will be the guardians of minor children. Those are all good things. The problem is what a will does not do. Okay, I just explained what a will does. Now I'm going to explain what a will does not do. A well-drafted will, even a perfectly drafted will, is not guaranteed to avoid probate. What is probate?
Something you want to avoid.
Exactly. And most people have a negative association with probate as well. They should. But simplify it, put it in one sentence. Probate's the process where a court oversees the administration of an estate. When an estate goes to probate, there's a series of hearings, a series of filings, a series of deadlines, a series of events that occur before assets go from the name of the deceased to the names of the intended beneficiaries. As an estate planning attorney, my goal is to encourage my clients to create plans that are guaranteed to avoid probate. Why do we want to avoid probate? It really comes down to three reasons. The first is cost. Average cost to probate in a state right now in the state of Wisconsin is between $5,000 to $10,000. That's an average. Some are more, some are less. Second is timing. Average length of probate in the state of Wisconsin is between 12 to 18 months. Third reason is publicity. Wills become public record. Not only does the will itself become public record, but the amount and the character of the assets that pass through the will also become public record. So again, to summarize the three negatives of probate: cost, $5,000 to $10,000, timing, 12 to 18 months, and the fact that it's public record. Now that usually begs the question, how do we avoid probate?
Yeah, because everything that you just mentioned there, those three reasons, everyone wants to avoid that. I mean,
Right.
time and money are things that people value.
Absolutely.
And privacy also.
Privacy is a big one. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those that falls into the wide expanse of what I didn't learn in law school. But privacy is important to people. I mean, I get it from constitutional standpoints, right to searches and seizures, things like that. I understand
Sure.
why property rights are very important there. But when it comes to what people want or don't want people to know after their deaths, I guess I'm a little surprised that people tend to be as protective of that than I would have guessed, certainly, or that I would be. Certainly. I mean, the way I look at it, I'm dead at that point, I mean, I guess. But at the same time, I mean, that is a valid concern. So again, $5,000 to $10,000 cost, 12 to 18 months to administer, and the fact that it's public record. So again, how do we avoid probate? There are only two ways under Wisconsin law to avoid probate. The first way is this: you take a non-married individual or the second of a married couple whenever they pass away. If the value of the probate assets is greater than $50,000, the estate is going to still go to probate even if there's a will. So the only way to avoid probate with a will is if you have less than $50,000, that's $50,000 worth of probate assets. So most people who own real estate are going to have equity in the home that's worth at least $50,000. So that's going to trigger probate there before we even get to any other assets. So the only other way, the only guaranteed way to avoid probate is, instead of creating a will-based estate plan, we create a trust-based estate plan.
Okay.
So the trust is the guarantee that the estate will avoid probate. That's the most simplest definition that I can give in terms of how a trust operates. But the type of trust I recommend is typically what's called a revocable living trust. Revocable. Now, that's another misconception. A lot of my practice, Amy, is based on misconceptions. People saying to me, hey, I heard this, or my neighbor said this, or my sister said this. Sometimes that advice is correct. Oftentimes it's not. What I will tell you with the trust is that at its core, trust is pretty similar to the will. Just like with the will, you get to determine who your beneficiaries are. Just like with the will, you get to determine who's in charge. Just like with the will, you get to determine guardianship of the minor children. The difference is because the trust can never die, the trust is how we avoid probate. Because the idea is this: if I have children are a generation younger than me, they should survive me, but there's no guarantee. The trust, on the other hand, is 100% guaranteed to survive me. So that's kind of the overarching logic behind trust-based estate planning. We funnel these assets into an entity that cannot die, and that's how we avoid probate.
Your hometown lawyer, Rob Melick from Melick Law, an estate planning attorney, is with us here this morning. Happy to take your questions via phone and text. So certainly give us a call at 885-4446. 885-4446 is the studio line. And you can also text at 887-9595. 887-9595. Of course, you can check out the stream on Daily Dodge TV at dailydodge.com and also our YouTube channel. Just simply search for Daily Dodge TV. You say often, Rob, that estate planning really is something that people choose to ignore because these are, really shouldn't be tough things to deal with, but they certainly can be uncomfortable for folks. And it's not just something for older people. When you were talking about parents, like both of us, we both have, young kids, and those different phases we go through in our lives. And is it 3 Ds and a B? Mm-hmm. What those major life events that we should be aware of?
Yeah, and again, these are just some examples, but the common examples of pretty tragic or consequential life events: death, disability, divorce, and birth. Obviously, birth is usually a good thing, but certainly those other ones are generally not great things, especially disability and death. Divorce, I guess, could be a good thing depending on the situation you're escaping from or moving to, I suppose. But I jest. But yeah, no, I mean, and that's the idea. The idea is that with a revocable living trust, you can make those changes if those life events do occur. It gives you the ability to look at the situation and assess what you'd want to do. I mean, the example I give, and I've given before, would be, if you look at our lives, Amy, 20 years ago.
Oh, wait, let's take a moment.
Yeah.
Let's seriously think back 20 years ago, Rob, okay?
Right, sure.
Okay, I was 34.
Okay.
Okay, it's probably how old you are now.
So 34. No, I'm older than 34. But at any rate, I guess
I was
saying,
newlywed.
Right. You were newlywed, but you also didn't have children at that point, because I know your 2 children are under the age of 18.
Yeah.
So again, you didn't have children at that point. So clearly your estate plan would have been different. I'm in the same boat. I did not have children either at that point. Was not married at that point. But, things would be different. How about 20 years from now? 20 years from now, maybe you have grandchildren. Maybe I have grandchildren. Maybe it's looking at it differently. My point is that life events do occur that cause people to want to update the documents. So not only can you update those documents at any time if you have a revocable trust, at Melick Law, I don't charge for revisions to those documents. So if you create the initial documents with me and we make changes, those are done on a complimentary basis, because I do have clients who will frequently update their documents because of those life events or other life events that could come up. Again, I make it a point not to get too political, but I will make the statement that after the 2016 election and after the 2020 election, I had a lot of calls. People get together at Christmases and Thanksgivings, and it causes parents to want to update their estate plan. So that does happen. I'm not saying it's a good thing. In fact, I'm saying it's a bad thing, but it does happen. And my job as the attorney is not to make judgments. It's to do what my clients ask me to do and give them advice on how best to accomplish their goals. And I'm awaiting those calls in early to late November and early December, because they will happen.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how many and with what frequency. So yes, those are things that do occur and give you the ability to make those changes, which is probably the most important thing. And again, at my firm, they're done on a complimentary basis.
That's nice. How do folks get in touch with you, Rob Melick?
Sure. So I do have 4 office locations. So the main office for most people in the listening and the viewing audience here would be in Beaver Dam. For those of you who listen to Senior Solutions, Sandy and Matt Heyer graciously let me use their office to meet with clients there. But I do also have office locations in Richfield, Port Washington, and West Bend. I do make house calls, and I can do virtual calls as well. So if we need to meet, if it's easier for us to meet virtually by Zoom or FaceTime or whatever the case is, we can do that, even if it's just a simple phone call. I definitely have had a few initial consultations by phone just to get some basic information across. So I do offer that. I offer night, weekend appointments, holidays, whatever the case is. Best way to get a hold of me is by phone. The number for any one of those office locations is 262-347-3444. Again, 262-347-3444. I do, as I mentioned, offer that free initial consultation regardless of where that meeting is. And furthermore, for WBEV listeners, I do afford a 20% discount off of services. So if you did hear about me from this station, just let me know and we'll happily adjust the bill.
That's so very generous of you. Rob Melick of Melick Law, your hometown lawyer, is with us here this morning. He joins us the third Monday of every month, and he is always at the ready to answer questions and to help people regarding a situation they may be in, or simply looking ahead and looking to get serious about their planning. Studio lines open for your phone calls at 885-4446, 885-4446 is the studio line. And you can also text in your questions at 887-9595, 887-9595. This is a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Melick Law, not WBEV or Good Karma Brands. All right, I did it all without copy in front of me. How about that?
That was impressive. You didn't even say or even one time. That's really good.
Oh, my goodness, especially coming right back from vacation. Oh, my goodness. And your family is out enjoying some time away, so big parties at the Melick Mansion, right?
Yeah, just we'll try to keep the noise down so the police don't come. But no, nothing like that. But yeah, they are on vacation. I went on a cruise in March, and that was a 10-day event. And then not this week, but the next week, I'm doing the entire Washington County Fair.
Oh, my goodness,
So,
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. So my wife is from Baltimore, and every year they go to Ocean City, Maryland for a week. And I just couldn't make it work this year. I really enjoy it, but the boys and she are out there, and they're having a good time out there. But yeah, they'll be back this weekend. So so they really enjoy it. And like I said, I love it too. The food's amazing. The beach I like in limited doses because I'm not a big warm weather fan.
Yeah.
But if I can go to the beach for a couple hours and then go back to the air conditioned condo, that works out pretty well for me.
It's a good balance.
It is. And then, like I said, this county fair, if anyone's interested in attending, it's a Washington County Fair. They have vendors, and like I said, I've done the Dodge County Fair before, but it's outside and it's hot. And if it's over 60, I start to melt. So they have
your sugar.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, that's one way to look at it, I suppose. But yeah, so the Washington County Fair, you're in the air-conditioned exhibit hall, which is really nice. So
It is very nice.
if anyone wants to stop by, we'll have a booth out there. We'll have some giveaways and different things like that. So it's
I
just,
heard you're introducing Molly Hatchet.
that's the plan. I'm supposed to keep that one under wraps. My agent told me I can't disclose that, so that's really funny. But no, there should be some good acts. I mean, there's always good acts, and the food is always tremendous.
Yeah.
I mean, the food is just second to none there. So yeah,
What do you look forward to as far as fair food goes? What's your favorite?
I mean, there's so many good options. The pizza there, they just make I don't know why it tastes so good. It's like at the ball game. I don't know why the hot dogs taste better at the ball game, but they just do. Actually, a couple years ago, they had a Euro guy who the Euros were tremendous. So, but even like staples, like they have a really good double cheeseburger at one of the places, just
yummy.
a grilled double cheeseburger. So, pretty much anything that doesn't have vegetables, Amy is
right.
fair game for me.
No
So,
salad on a stick for you.
no salad on a stick. Cheese curds. They had some good cheese curds a couple years ago. So, yeah, we and what's nice is they have and don't quote me on the times because I don't know this, but they do have available ride passes where you pay like $20, you can ride unlimited rides. So for like my kiddos at 14 and 11, they eat that up.
Yeah.
It's right in their wheelhouse. So a lot of good exhibits, a lot of 4-H things, a lot of animals, rides. So yeah, I mean, I realize it's my home county, but it's really got it all. But if you're there and you need to cool off, just come into the exposition center and say hi to your local neighborhood estate planning attorney.
I love that. And that is Rob Melick from Melick Law, of course, talking about his upcoming adventure, fun to be had at the Washington County Fair. So, yeah, we definitely want people to visit you there. And it is nice and cool in those exhibition halls.
And especially because you're outside and you come in. I remember one year I haven't done this for about 9 to 10 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, it's normally coordinated. It's normally overlapped with Ocean City. So I choose to go to Ocean City with my family. But this year, because of the the cruise, and it wasn't an overlap, but it would be 2 weeks without seeing clients. I mean, if I was in Ocean City right now, I wouldn't be able to see clients. The week I'm at the fair, I can't see clients. So, because I'm at the fair, or I'm on vacation. So, like I said, this year, just enough time in advance, I decided, you know what, I want to do the fair this year. I want to see what it looks like. I have 3 paralegals now, so they're going to rotate shifts with me.
Nice.
So it'll be good. I'm really looking forward to it.
It sounds like it's going to be a great time, and really wonderful that you do have such a great team to work with when you mention your 3 paralegals.
Yep, no, very very blessed in that regard. So it's been an adventure. I went from 1 to 2 to 1 to 3 paralegals. So very very happy with that. They're all doing great. So no complaints there whatsoever.
That's wonderful. Estate planning, elder law, probate, avoiding it. Just a few of the things that Rob Melick, your hometown lawyer of Melick Law, will help you with. What are some of the most common questions that you get from folks?
I think the main one you kind of hit on the head is, why do I need this, right? And again, I think it varies. I mean, if people listen to shows like this, well, they know why they need it. But a lot of times what will end up happening is people will just be in a social setting. They'll be out at a bar with friends. Hey, what'd you do this week? Oh, I signed an estate plan. Really, you're in your 40s. Why would you sign an estate plan? And they kind of talk with each other, and I get a lot of referral business that way, which is great. But then a lot of times the second couple might be a little more skeptical, because obviously the first couple had some motivation to come in, whether it was just on their own or some life event occurred, whatever the case is. So really, that's my first question, first hurdle to overcome is, why do I need this plan? And as I mentioned before, the answer is simple. You're over the age of 18, you need an estate plan. If we don't have this in place, courts are going to make determinations. You're going to have to go to court to get somebody appointed as a guardian to make decisions. So that part makes it easy. If you have minor children, you need to have it. If you want to make sure you need to avoid probate, you need to have it. So that's really kind of the first main question I get. And the other thing is just kind of people want to know what the process is. And I'm sure if you polled 20 estate planning attorneys, you'd probably find out 20 different processes by which they accomplish what they need to. And that's fine. I can tell you my process is a pretty straightforward one. I may be a millennial, but I'm old school when it comes to asking questions and getting on the phone and doing whatever needs to be done. So I can get the information I need in person through an intake interview. Typically takes me about 10 to 15 minutes, and then it takes a while to draft it, but we exchange drafts if need be, or we go over the documents thoroughly at the signing, and then it's done. I mean, the most common response I get is that people are surprised at how quick and how easy it was. So
that's
obviously
nice.
that's the best compliment, one of the best compliments I can get there. And again, this is one of those things where it's important to get it done. It's important to understand what's going on with it, but it's also not something that you want to do hastily if you can avoid it. Because like I said, a lot of people just say, well, I'll just come in, when I'm about to die and I'll get it done. Well, we don't know when we're going to die. We don't know what kind of capacity or shape we're going to be in when we die. I mean, most people, barring accidents, and I'd say that's the minority of death. And let's just characterize as people over the age of 40, okay? Because, I mean, with minors and different things like that, it's a whole different analysis. But most people over the age of 40 don't just die instantly. Like, sure, there's some accidents or things like that. They get diagnosed with some sort of condition. They do their best to remediate the condition. They do their best to live throughout the circumstance, but it's usually something that's inevitable. I mean, yes, there are your car accidents out there. There are your sudden heart attacks that people pass away immediately. But those are definitely the minority of deaths when you reach a certain age. So people incorrectly think, well, now I have time. Well, what's the quality of that time going to be, though? I mean, it's one thing if you get an initial diagnosis of cancer and you're lucid. I mean, your body's hurting, but you yourself are lucid. My thing is very simple. Why take that chance? This is an inevitability. Why not have as much peace of mind for as long as possible? I mean, I realize as the provider of these services, that might be a self-serving statement, but it doesn't mean I'm wrong.
No.
It just means that this is something that is inevitable. And again, I have so many clients say to me, that was just getting that burden off my plate. It's something I knew I had to do, something I didn't want to think about, but I knew as a reasonable adult that I had to face at some point in time. And now I have the peace of mind that it was done correctly, and knowing that if there are changes, not only can I get them done, but they're done on a complimentary basis because my lawyer doesn't charge for that.
That's nice. Please share your contact information again.
Sure. So best way to get a hold of me for any of my offices is by telephone. My phone number is 262-347-3444. Again, 262-347-3444. I do have the 4 office locations, the one in Beaver Dam, as well as offices in Richfield, Port Washington, and West Bend. And I am closing my Port Washington office in November because I purchased a building in Saukville. I think I mentioned that on the last last installment here, but that will be my main office, but I still intend to be out in Beaver Dam. I'm typically out here at least once a week, typically closer to 2 to 3 times a week. So it just varies on the week. It depends on client traffic, because that's the one office that I need to have kind of a separate day for, just because it's a little further away from those other 3. I mean, it would not be uncommon for me to have appointments in Richfield, West Bend, and Port Washington in the same day. That does
Wow.
happen just based on scheduling. You do
Sure.
one in the morning, later in the day. But when I'm out in Beaver Dam, I mean, sometimes I'll have additional appointments. Today I'm in Beaver Dam all day, but sometimes I'll have appointments here to, like, let's say 3, then I'll have 2 or 3 more appointments in Richfield or whatever the case is. But try to aggregate them as much as possible out here just because of the distance. But again, 262-347-3444, free initial consultation. And not only is that a free initial consultation to discuss estate planning options, I also, on a complimentary basis, will review existing estate planning documents. So if you have existing estate planning documents that were previously drafted and you either know they need to be redone or you're not sure, I'll do that on a complimentary basis as well, and just basically say, do what I call telling the story of the estate plan. And I do this hundreds of times with clients. They'll bring me in existing documents, and they don't remember. They don't remember everything. Maybe things have changed, but what I do to make it easy for them to understand is I say, okay, here are your estate planning documents. I'm going to tell the story of your existing estate plan. In other words, if we do nothing, if we update nothing, here's how it will go. And I will tell my clients, or the people who are in the room with me, stop me when you hear something you don't like. Okay, if there's something that I mentioned, you're like, well, that's not right. That's not what I want anymore.
Well, and talk about having someone's full attention,
Right.
Rob.
Yeah.
You're telling them their story.
Sure, and I find it's effective because it gets people to, like you said, focus in, and it allows me to identify issues. Because again, I can, different attorney. I mean, I have some attorneys who use a stack of documents this thick, right? But with all humility, having done this for a while, I can get to the important parts of it. I don't need to read every word. I can find the important parts. But okay, well, you have Jane, your sister Jane, as the person representative. Well, Jane died 10 years ago. Okay, we probably need to change that.
Yeah.
Or, at the time these documents were drafted 20 years ago, my children were 12 and 10. Well, now they're 32 and 30.
Wow.
Do we want them in charge? Well, yeah, we do want them in charge. They couldn't be in charge when they were 12 and 10, but now they're adults. They have families of their own. Yeah, let's put them in charge. So, I mean, those are things that people know. Oftentimes, there's provisions in a document that clients simply aren't aware of, either because they forgot over time or the attorney didn't do a great enough job of explaining it. It could be some combination of both of those. And so I bring those to the client's attention. Be like, are you sure this is what you want? I mean, a common example would be having the financial power of attorney be what's called immediate or springing. Okay.
Immediate, or what was that?
Springing.
Okay.
So when it comes to a financial power of attorney under Wisconsin law, it can be drafted either way. Immediate is pretty self-evident. The moment it is signed, I give my agent authority to be able to make those decisions. Springing, on the other hand, means that the agent under the financial power of attorney only has authority after the principal, the person who created the document, is deemed to be incompetent by 2 or more medical professionals.
Okay.
And so the problem with that approach is there may be times where we want assistance even though we are above the threshold of incapacity, right? So, in other words, think of it this way. Think of any person who is of normal intelligence, function, whatever the case is, right? For those who are viewing, you can see it. For the radio, it's not going to make great radio, but I'll do the best I can to describe it. If where my right hand is here represents capacity, okay? If you're above the right hand where my left hand is, that means you have capacity. So the idea is, while we're lucid, we make our own decisions. The problem is most people don't precipitously drop in terms of capacity unless there's some sort of car accident. So use the visual. They don't do this as far as their capacity. They do this. They go on a slower arc, and they may get to a point where they are just above the line where medical professionals would deem them incapacitated. In fact, I have a lot of clients who are at that point. And the problem is that if they have a springing power of attorney, their loved one can't do anything if they're here, if they're just above that line of capacity, even though they really do need help. So it requires us to redraft the powers of attorney to make it an immediate grant of authority. So those are just some of the examples, Amy, but those are the things that I will, for lack of a better word, diagnose in the initial estate plan, and then advise my prospective clients, hey, look, do you want to keep it this way? Do you not want to keep it this way? And to be clear, just because an estate planning attorney makes a suggestion doesn't mean you have to take it. The example I give is this, because it's pretty universally relatable. I'm sure every single one of us, or at least most of the people listening, at some point have engaged a commercial entity to do an oil change for them, a Jiffy
yeah.
Lube or a whatever, a neighborhood person to do it, right? And what inevitably happens, you agree to pay the fee, $39.99 for the oil change, fine. They do the oil change, they take it down. What happens next? Inevitably, the mechanic says, I noticed your brake pads were a little warm, okay? It'll cost you $200 to replace those. And look at this air filter. It's
Don't forget about the
disgusting.
serpentine belt.
Right, the serpentine belt, right, exactly. And most people, I think, reject most of the recommendations the mechanic makes.
I actually take all of them.
Do you take all? Well, I was just saying, hey, different strokes for different folks.
Because,
right.
like, they'll show you things,
Sure.
Right. And I just had this done a few weeks ago before we left on our vacation.
Sure.
The interior air filter,
Yeah.
the big air filter, they were disgusting.
Right.
Change them.
Right, and that's the thing. Some people take them, some people don't, but a lot of people don't take them, right?
How about you? Do you take them?
I don't take
Okay.
them. I mean, like I said, it's one of those things where if I can see it and I know it's coming up, that's one thing. But like my point is, the estate planning attorney is no different, right? Just because I have a degree doesn't mean that I know any more about. I mean, I know more about this, but you're not required to take all of my suggestions. You just have to be aware of why I'm calling those out, and then you got to decide whether or not you want to accept the risk.
which way you want to go.
Exactly. And by the way, I'm going to put you on the spot. I didn't know you went on vacation. Where'd you guys go?
Chicago.
Oh, nice.
So we went last spring break, so last March, and there were things we couldn't do that the kids
Sure.
really wanted to do,
Yeah.
like Navy Pier and
Sure.
the Bean and things like that. So that's what we did,
Nice.
and we had so much fun at Navy Pier. And we took a sailboat sunset cruise
nice.
on a 142-foot ship. I think it's the Windy or the Tall and Windy. It was awesome. Of course, there was a blues band playing. I met Buddy Guy at his Club Legends. That was really fun. And we did a lot of walking and shopping on Michigan Avenue, did the architectural boat tour from the Chicago River, which was great. The kids loved that.
Right.
And it was fun. We were there for 4 days. It went by really fast.
Nice.
Yeah, and the traveling cheesehead, Danette Gay, who was on with us before you joined us here this morning, was talking about her website and travels and things to do specifically with kids that kids that are the ages that we have, and sometimes it's hard to keep them interested.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you were talking about your family being in Ocean City and why you're not there this time, wasn't that the destination in the first SpongeBob movie where they were going? Wasn't it Ocean City?
That I don't know. Having never seen a SpongeBob movie, what I can tell you.
With David Hasselhoff, you've got to see it.
Yeah.
It's forever old now.
I'll put that on my list. But there's Ocean City, Maryland. There's Ocean City, New Jersey. So
Okay.
it could, and I think there's an Ocean City, California too, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm very partial to Ocean City, Maryland. Like I said, the first time I ever saw the beach or the ocean was when I was dating my now wife at this point. So when we were in college, and like I said, they went out there every year, and the seafood's just tremendous. I'm a huge seafood fan.
Okay,
so.
you don't like vegetables,
Don't
but
like
you
vegetables.
love seafood.
Love seafood.
I love king crab.
Yes,
what's your
it's tremendous.
go-to seafood?
Scallops. I love scallops.
same. It's so
Scallops and
good.
shrimp. I mean, I could eat those all day long. So.
Oh, I'm hungry. I've not
Yeah.
had lunch yet. Have you had lunch?
I've not had lunch yet. I may have to get a quick trip and get a fish fillet here or something. But no, it's I like I said, the seafood there is just tremendous. It's they also have a white clam sauce over linguine at this one place. It's an
Ooh,
Italian
good.
place, and it's phenomenal. So. And that's actually where they're going tonight. So I was joking to see if they could find a way to get it back to me and
Yeah,
keep
no
it cool and
kidding.
everything. But no, it's totally fine. I get it. It's and like I said, I'd want to go down there. Even during the summer, it's all touristy. They got a boardwalk and everything. But we went one year before we were married. We went for a couple days after Thanksgiving, and it was really cool. Like
Aw.
it was pretty cold at that time. They had a Christmas thing in the park, and I can remember being 23, 24 out there, and it was just a lot of fun. So I think I may want to try to do that again sometime. But,
Yeah, that sounds magical.
and go off season, because during the season it's crazy. I mean, the rates for rents are incredible. It's always packed, and it's fun. The beaches are always fun. I like swimming in the ocean. It's really cold, which is nice, especially this time of year, because you go in August, it starts getting a lot warmer. But
Yeah, it does.
They moved it up because my oldest is now doing high school football. So
Are you coaching that?
I am not coaching
Okay.
high school football. No. No,
I have
I
to
coach.
figure out what those obligations are
Yes,
now.
no, I coach 7th and 8th grade football. So I won't have a child this year because I'll have a ninth grader and a sixth grader, but then Hudson will become a seventh grader next year, of course. So I'll have him for his last 2 years.
Okay.
So, and then I'll retire from coaching.
You're very involved. It's really, you help people in many ways, Rob Melick.
I do what I can.
Rob Melick, your hometown lawyer of Melick Law, is with us here this morning. He joins us the third Monday of every month and always at the ready to answer your questions, give advice for a situation you might need advice on. So certainly give us a call. Studio lines open at 885-4446, 885-4446. And you can also text at 887-9595. 887-9595. How many years now have you had your practice?
So my own practice, it'll be 8 years in September.
Okay.
That I've had my own practice. So 8 years in September there. But I've been it'll be 17 years at around the same time that I've been practicing overall. So
It's wonderful.
majority of which has been in Wisconsin. I grew up here, but I did go to college and law school in Pennsylvania. So I moved out here in 2014. So I guess it'll be 10 years in Wisconsin, 7 years in Pennsylvania. So now I've been here more than I've been there in terms of my legal practice. So that's good. And like I said, especially in my time in Wisconsin, almost exclusively with estate planning. So obviously ever since I've had my own firm, it's always been exclusively estate planning. Most of what I did at my previous firm in Wisconsin was estate planning. And then also my last firm in Pennsylvania, I did quite a bit of estate planning out there too. So
It's your jam. It's
it
your
is.
passion.
It is.
You're
Well,
good at it.
Well, and what's funny is, I think I've told this story before, but we've been on the air so long, I've run out of fresh stories to tell you. I don't know if you're aware of this one, but the way I got into it was I was at a firm. My first firm out of law school was just, it was a great experience, but it was, 70, 80 hours a week, hypothetically chained to a desk, doing motions and briefs and legal research and everything else. Just wasn't what I wanted to do. So I joined a firm that was a little more diverse in terms of the practice areas. And one of the attorneys there, it was a senior attorney, had told me, he said, the reason you want to get into estate planning is because universally it's known as having the least stress among practice areas for attorneys. But there's really two main reasons for it. You don't have opposing counsel and you don't have court deadlines.
Those are two big things.
Yeah, there are some court deadlines with probate, but beyond that, he's right. And not having when you have a lawsuit, there's a winner and a loser. And if it settles, there's someone who feels badly and someone who feels a little more badly. But with this, it's just helping people. It's having meetings. It's getting information. It's coordinating feelings and making sure that people are having the ability to have the assets they worked hard for go where they want them to go. And I think that's kind of right in my wheelhouse. So very glad I found that practice area because I think it fits me pretty well.
Well, and I think so too. And you really do have a gift of explaining things in such a way that they're easy to understand. And you're so approachable. You're very easy to talk to, and that trust is established quickly. I would assume between you and someone that you're working with.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. The biggest thing is patience, and it's one of those things where, fortunately, I've been blessed with a decent amount of patience in my personal and professional careers because sometimes it tests you, both on personal and professional sides. And I'm not perfect. I definitely have, on the personal side, been a little impatient at times. But generally speaking, I think that's a good trait to have as an estate planning attorney and one that I try to emulate as best I can there, certainly with clients. And because, again, the way I have to look at it, the perspective I come in with is that for most people, this is a one-shot deal. They're meeting with an estate planning attorney. They finally decided to do this, whereas to me, at some level, it appears to just be another client. And I have to divorce myself from the idea of this is just another client. So look, this is their livelihood. This is what they came in for. And kind of put myself in their shoes a little bit. The intimidation that they may have, the nervousness that they may have, and just in my position, just try to make them feel as at ease as I possibly can.
Absolutely. It's essential to make that happen.
Yeah.
Have you found over the course of your career in estate planning just how people approach it? Has it changed, like from those folks who, we talked about people wanting to keep things so very private and so very guarded. Have you seen a change as far as the process opening up where they're, maybe going to bring a kid with them or a sibling or someone who is going to be one of those powers of attorney?
Absolutely, and I'm a fan of that. There is the attorney-client privilege, and that is about as sacred of a relationship as there is, right? That I don't have the ability to share client confidences without their consent. That said, I encourage them to share them with their children because it'll make things a lot easier down the road. So it's ultimately a client's choice whether to what extent they want me to breach the attorney-client privilege. But at the same time, it is something I encourage just for that reason, because if you take a typical situation where the parents predecease the children, Well, the children are going to be the ones left picking up the pieces. The children are going to be the ones left trying to figure out what mom and dad wanted. So if they were part of the communication process early on, it does make things easier, particularly if there is a disparate treatment among children. I mean, if children just find out for the first time at death that mom and dad treated them differently, that's going to cause a lot of hard feelings.
Oh boy, I can't imagine the emotional side of what you see.
That's right. And in some cases, there's any number of reasons why it might be valid to treat children differently. But if you don't share that with them, how do they know? I mean, the most common example I came up with that I always share is I had a client who went 60-40 with the two children. One because he paid for private college for the one child, and the other one got a full scholarship. So he said, I gave more to one during life. I want to give more to the other one during death. Perfectly reasonable reasons, right? I mean, may not be the way I would do it, but it makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. And I encourage him. I said, you may want to have this conversation with your children before you pass away.
Oh, I hope he did.
And I don't know whether he said he thought it was a good idea, but I guess that's my point. You know, you just don't know. You're in a situation where you just don't know whether or not they're going to have a conversation. And the child who did receive 40 might say, well, what happened here? Mm-hmm. Or another common example is of a situation where one child provides all the care, all the oversight, and the other child lives in a different state. Well, to make up for the amount of care that they receive, they may elect to choose to compensate the child who's local more. And again, that's their right, but it would be helpful to explain why as opposed to having the children try to guess after the fact.
Yeah, those are big questions to have to guess at, and really big pieces to pick up if those conversations don't happen.
Yeah, and again, you know, these children, they don't know any different. They just see the percentages and they don't know. Whereas if you have a conversation with them and explain it to them, maybe that can make it better. Maybe it can't. I don't know. It depends. I mean, there's a lot of human element here, but at the same time, I feel like more information is always better than less information.
Yeah. Rob Melick, your hometown lawyer of Melick Law. Estate planning is something he can help you with, making sure you avoid probate, helping you to avoid probate, helping you understand elder law. These are just some of the things that Rob can help you with, and he's happy to do that. How can folks reach out to set that initial appointment?
Yeah, so best way to get a hold of me is by phone, 262-347-3444. Again, 262-347-3444. I do have 4 office locations, Beaver Dam, Richfield, Port Washington, and West Bend. Port Washington will be converting to Saukville soon. Do also have the ability to have virtual calls, phone calls, Zoom, whatever works. And I do also make house visits. So for any of those, feel free to give me a call again at your convenience, 262-347-3444.
Are we really going to get a fish sandwich now?
Probably not. I don't have the time for that, but maybe on the way home, or certainly Friday, I could definitely get that done. They're cheaper at Quick Trip on Fridays. So.
We love it when you join us, as do our listeners and our viewers. So much valuable information and so many big things that you help people with, Rob. The third Monday of every month, Rob joins us at 11:10 for Melick Monday. And again, please share your phone number with folks before we formally wrap up.
There you go. Best way to get hold of me, 262-347-3444. Again, 262-347-3444. Free initial consultation, 20% discount to WBEV listeners.
Rob Melick of Melick Law. This has been a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Melick Law, not WBEV or Good Karma Brands.